Hi guys, welcome back to Earth to Rosita. Around this time last year, I actually was talking about Age of Aquarius, and I was talking about making a video about Age of Aquarius, and I'm gonna call myself out and say that I was wrong, and we're not in the Age of Aquarius. I was doing a little bit of digging, and I found a chart that told me what age we are actually in. And the funniest thing about this, being in the Age of Pisces, is that it's the most Pisces thing to ever happen. Basically, it's the most we were disillusioned to believe that we were in the Age of Aquarius when we were really in the Age of Pisces. And so the really interesting thing about the age we're actually in is that a lot of people are referring to it as the Great Awakening, but I'm going to talk about the previous age that we were in and the years, and I'm going to talk about Aquarius as the energy, and I'm going to go off of my notes this time because this is really important to me. So I want to get everything, I want to say everything as best as I can to get this message across as best as I can. Oh, brother. Okay, so the Age of Aquarius started from 18,000 to 1980. So those are the dates. Aquarius is a fixed sign. It's an air sign. The symbol of Aquarius is the water bearer. It is a masculine sign. And it is Saturn and Uranus ruled. So already, we can kind of see the way that we transition, like all of the things that happened in the Age of Aquarius is why we are now in the Age of Pisces. Okay, so that sounds, what I mean by that is okay, so these are, I'm gonna just read directly from what I could, I was meditating, and sometimes when I meditate I get some psychic messages. These are not everything that I wrote down is like a psychic message or whatever. Okay, I'm just gonna stop rambling and just read what I wrote. The energy of the water bearer is one which revolves around eccentricism, knowledge, building of ideas, and deception. Through its earthly aspect and underlying demeanor, there is an undeniable aspect to this energy that is connected to and tied with Capricorn. Their expressions are vastly different, but their goals are the same. They want dominion, success, earthly advancement, and their goal is tied to / laced with karma and karmic debt. So that's the first thing I want. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack with Age of Aquarius. I mean, okay, there's a few things I'm going to unpack with Age of Aquarius in terms of just talking about real historical events that happened during Age of Aquarius, which is why it's led us, which is why we see all of this unraveling of something called the Great Awakening or the Great Reset. Okay, so I decided to list down all the things that happened the beginning of 18,000, and then I'm just gonna read everything that I like, everything past 1922 or something on the computer, because there is a lot. Obviously, it's history, so this is a history lesson. God, I hope I can read my own writing. Sometimes I can't even read my own writing because I'm scribbling. So here goes. Some of these are fun, some of these aren't really like relevant historical facts, but here we go. 18,000, invention of modern day battery. So that was a kind of fun fact, boring fact. 1804, New Jersey abolishes slavery. 1804, the 12th Amendment was created. So I'm also gonna let you guys know what these amendments are, because I think that they're relevant. And I also realized that I don't think I can finish. This is going to be part 1 of the video. So the 12th Amendment is the electors shall meet in their prospective states and vote by ballot for president and vice president, one of whom, at least, shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. They shall name in their ballots the person voted for as president, and in distinct ballots the person voted for as vice president. 1807, UK abolished slave trade. 1826, the first photograph. You guys can, wait, you can't see very well, but I love photographs. I have to have photographs all around me. So, yeah. I just felt like pointing that out. 1828, Democratic Party was created. 1830, Indian Removal Act by Andrew Jackson, which was a Democrat. So I kind of found that interesting. I'm going to let you guys know what Indian Removal Act was. The Indian Removal Act was signed into the law on May 28, 1830 by United States President Andrew Jackson. The law authorized the president to negotiate with Southern Native American tribes for their removal to federal territory west of the Mississippi River in exchange for white settlement of their ancestral lands. Okay, so 1837, Queen Victoria ascends the throne. 1840, the Brits colonized. No, wait, the British. I'm not drunk, I swear. The British colonists arrived to New Zealand. Oh, wait, hold on. It was on that page. And then I skipped a little bit. So now I'm up to the year 1854, which was the year that the Republican Party was founded. 1860, Lincoln became president. 1861, beginning of Civil War. 1862, signs of war in Europe. 1864, first use of submarine in warfare. 1865, Civil War ends, Lincoln assassinated, and the 13th Amendment ratified, and in that same year, the KKK was formed. So what is the 13th Amendment? Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Section 2. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. 1868, the 14th Amendment. So what is the 14th Amendment? Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. 1870, the U.S. Department of Justice was formed. Where are we up to now? 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act. I think I actually have something that I need to read out for that. So that was something created in 1882, and it was in regard to like immigration laws and stuff. So here it says, in the spring of 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act was passed by Congress and signed by President Chester A. Arthur. This act provided an absolute 10-year moratorium on Chinese labor immigration. For the first time, federal law prescribed entry of ethnic working group on premise that it endangered the good order of certain localities. The Chinese Exclusion Act required the few non-laborers who sought entry to obtain certification from the Chinese government that they were qualified to immigrate. But this group found it increasingly difficult to prove that they were not laborers because the 1882 Act defined excludables as skilled and unskilled laborers and Chinese employed in mining. Okay, so now I'm going to add a couple of fun ones here. So 1883, Brooklyn Bridge was created. 1885, the Statue of Liberty. 1889, Eiffel Tower was created. And now, here is where it gets kind of crazy for me, because this is something that First Nations people have been saying for the last couple of months since I've been paying attention. So it said, in the year 1901, Queen Victoria dies. But in that same year, the Commonwealth of Australia was created. This is like an interesting fact to think about. 1910, immigration to the U.S. hits an all-time high. And in that same year, King Edward II dies. 1913, the 16th and 17th Amendment was created. So what are those amendments? The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source deprived without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. Enumeration! God damn it. So, it seems like these amendments, in my point of view, they're kind of like, they seem to be spiraling the freedoms of the American people downward. And I can't really see how the 16th Amendment benefits the people at all. And it clearly just, like, taxes. Like, what purpose do taxes really serve? So I'll just let you ponder that question for a little bit. The 17th Amendment. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The electors in which state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislatures. Okay, so as I was recording, I actually was looking for the picture of the 17th Amendment, and this is the full one. So, yeah, sorry guys. So it seems like that 17th Amendment, it also doesn't really it basically seems like it's a growing government, and a growing government that doesn't seem to, I mean, I don't know, I don't live in the US, but it just doesn't seem to have any meaningful purpose other than more governmental control or something. That's just my point of view. I could be completely wrong about the American lifestyle. I mean, I am Australian, and I mean, Australia and America are allies, and we're very similar in lifestyle, even though we're very different in lifestyle. So, yeah. 1914. Federal Trade Commission formed. Income taxes. And then World War I. So, what else happened in 1914? Russian Revolution, and America declares war onto Germany. Then we're at 1918. Influenza Epidemic. So this is something that I found really interesting. The Influenza Epidemic. In the year 1918, around the time where there's a Russian Revolution and then a war is declared. I don't know, I feel like that has some eerie similarities to the years, to everything that's happened between, now and the last decade of our lives. Where are we going? What's all this leading up to? Okay, history, I understand that history repeats itself. And I understand the cycles of why. I understand the cosmic cycles of why. There's a paradigm. I am struggling with words tonight. I mean, it is 1:30 a.m. So maybe I am a little bit tired. And there's a paradigm of a certain group of people that have a God complex that are just utilizing that power over a certain group. And I see it all the time in vegan activism. The human species thinks that they have dominion over all other life, hunters, factory farmers, animal testing, animal entertainment, all that kind of shit, obviously you can't really say that, sorry, vegan rant, it has to happen, guys. You can't really say that it's coming from a place of love when you're slaughtering a cow for food, the same way that the government cannot say that it's coming from a place of love, that they're just mandating vaccines now and being all fucking psychotic and shit like that. I don't know, just something to think about. Okay, I'll shut my mouth. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So where was I up to? So the influenza epidemic started, and now we're having COVID-19. It's an endemic, and most people should know this by now, but people are walking around acting like the only way that we can get ourselves out of this is if we vaccinate ourselves out of this with vaccines that just flat out don't fucking work. But it's interesting that like every 100 years there just happens to be, I mean, I think that there just happens to be like it's just gonna happen in 100 years time again. Is there gonna be like some kind of a new virus floating around that shuts the world down and kills blah blah blah? Who knows? Okay, now I'm just rambling with my conspiracy theories. Okay, so 1920, the 19th Amendment was ratified to give women the right to vote. 1921, the Communist Party in China was created. So now we're up to 1922. So in that year, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, was created. The British Broadcasting Company, BBC, was formed. Gandhi preached for mass civil disobedience, non-violence, and peaceful resistance against British rule in India, and the British authorities sentenced him to 6 years imprisonment. Okay, so that was interesting. (1923), Adolf Hitler leads the Nazi Party in failed coup attempt. Wrigley. 1924, the Indian Citizenship Act confers citizenship on all Native Americans born within the United States. So we're going to read about the act, and okay, so I'm going to read something that I just found online. The act was proposed by Representative Homer P. Snyder. By the way, he was a Republican. So if any of y'all are just like out here saying that, oh, Republicans have a history of racism, they're terrible. No. No. Of New York, and signed into law by President Calvin on June 2nd, 1924. It was enacted partially in recognition of the thousands of Native Americans who served in the armed forces during the First World War. What was the importance of the 1924 Snyder Act? The Snyder Act of 1924 admitted Native Americans born in the U.S. to full U.S. citizenship. Though the 15th Amendment passed in 1870, I don't know how I missed the 15th Amendment. I'm going to read that later. I mean, after I read this out. Granted all U.S. citizens the right to vote regardless of race. It wasn't until the Snyder Act that the Native Americans could enjoy the rights granted by this amendment. So, just for a little fun fact, what day is it? Tuesday. What is the 15th Amendment? Section 1. Wait, have I written that wrong? I don't know if I've, oh wait, yeah, I have. Okay, sorry, I've got so many tabs open. I've already read out loud what the 15th Amendment was. Sorry, guys. Oh, Lord. So now I'm up to 1929. The Wall Street crash of 1929 started the period of the Great Depression in the United States. Vatican City becomes an independent and sovereign state located within Rome. That also happened in the year 1929. What's going on about sporting challenges? So the Great Depression started in the year 1930. So I'm just going to read what Wikipedia said. So I'm just going to read what Wikipedia has said about the Great Depression. The Great Depression was a severe worldwide economic depression that took place mostly during the 1930s, beginning in the United States. The timing of the Great Depression varied across the world. In most countries, it started in 1929 and lasted until the late 1930s. It was the longest, deepest, and most widespread depression of the 20th century. The Great Depression is commonly used as an example of how intensely the global economy can decline. The Great Depression started in the United States after a major fall in stock prices that began around September 4, 1929, and became worldwide news with the stock market crash of October 29, 1929. Between 1929 and 1932, worldwide gross domestic product fell by an estimated 15%. By comparison, worldwide GDP fell by less than 1% from 2008 to 2009 during the Great Recession. Okay, some economies started to recover by the mid-1930s. So it's just like, I don't know, a decline of economies. And it's interesting. Just before this, influenza happened. And then the Great Depression happened after like the stock market an economic decline. So what typically starts an economic decline? Like, I don't know. It's just I'm a little bit ignorant to this stuff, but I'm trying to learn as I go along. Printing a lot of money. Printing trillions of dollars. Inflation going up. Those things come to mind. And it's just like history repeats itself. That kind of thing. And it also says here that the unemployment in the United States reaches its highest in the winter of 1932 and 1933, with nearly 1 in 3 people unemployed. Notorious gangster, 1932, notorious gangster Al Capone, is convicted of income tax evasion. The Depression. Yeah, this is one that I found really interesting. 1931, Australia becomes independent from England. Then, 1934, due to poverty around the world, political extremism, including fascism, Nazism, and extreme communism, gains followers. Which is just communism. I can't really think of extreme communism. There's only one communism, isn't there? Like, extreme communism. 1935, the United States Social Security Act is signed into law. 1935 also, President Roosevelt's Revenue Act, Wealth Tax Act begins. 1938, Germany begins its persecution of Jews. 1939, Germany attacks Poland, starting World War II. Russia invades Finland. And we're done for the 1940s. Now we're going on to 1940s. Did I say that? We're done for the 1930s. Now we're going on to the 1940s. 1940. Germany invades Denmark, Norway, France, Luxembourg, Belgium, and the Netherlands during World War II. President Roosevelt signs the Selective Training and Service Act, making it the first military draft to be created during peacetime in the United States. Germany begins bombing London in what was known as the Blitz in an attempt to weaken the British Royal Air Force. In 1941, Japan launches a surprise attack on the United States base in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, bringing the United States into the war. Italy and Germany also declare war on the United States. Soviet Russia and Japan sign a non-aggressive pact. Okay then. In 1942, so some just mainly like masculine war shit happening here, kind of. The U.S. Congress creates several branches of the armed forces for women to join the war effort, including Army's Women's Auxiliary Corps, or WACs, the Navy's Waves, WAVES, the Coast Guard's SPARS, and the Women's Air Force service pilots. The United States and Canada begin the unjust removal and internment of Japanese Americans and Japanese Canadians in fear that they will become a security threat during the war. 1933, Pentagon building is completed, and an uprising takes place in the Warsaw Jewish ghetto against the Nazis. 1944, Poland is liberated from Nazi occupation by Soviet troops and the Polish Home Army. Okay. 1945, World War II ends as Allied and Soviet forces make their way towards Germany, liberating concentration camps along the way. The United States drops 2 atomic bombs onto Japan, bringing an end to the Pacific side of the war. The United Nations is created after 50 nations signed the charter. Vietnam declares its independence from France under Ho Chi Minh City. God, I wish I was in Vietnam right now. So that's really interesting. The United Nations was formed after World War II. Now I'm just like scrolling by, trying to see anything interesting. Something just occurred to me. Like, I'm basically just like, it feels like I'm live streaming. So give this video a thumbs up if you wanted me to do live streams instead. So, like, I don't know, I feel like somebody's actually watching me instead of someone watching me later. I really need to sleep. It's 2 a.m. So in the year 1948, Israel is created as an independent Jewish state, and Muhammad Gandhi is assassinated. Great Britain creates the NHS. Sorry, guys. National Health Service. That happened in 1948 as well. Mao Zedong established 1949. Mao Zedong establishes the People's Republic of China. So now we're done with 1940. Going on to 1950, and we're almost done, just a couple of decades later. 1950, the United States starts building bombs. That's great. The Korean War begins when North Korea invades South Korea. 1951, United States ratifies the 22nd Amendment, limiting the president to 2 terms. Okay. In 1953, Joseph Stalin, the leader of the USSR, dies and is replaced by Nikita someone, I can't say her name. Her surname. Khrushchev. Ev. Oh my god. 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court rules that racial segregation is unconstitutional in public schools in their unanimous decision of Brown versus Board of Education. The U.S. Senator Joseph McCarthy is censured by the Senate, ending his 4-year-long hunt for communists within the United States of America. The United States government. 1955, the Warsaw Pact is signed by the Soviet Union and 7 of its satellite countries, which are Poland, Hungary, East Germany, Albania, Bulgaria, Romania, and I can't say Slovakia. I'm stuck. What the hell was that? I don't even know. The United States adds "In God We Trust" to all paper currency. Nothing really interesting happened in 1956. The Federal Aid Highway in 1956. The Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956 becomes law, allowing for the mass construction of tens of thousands of interstate highways in the U.S. Okay, I don't know how that was relevant to anything. 1958, the Great Chinese Famine begins. 1959, the Cuban Revolution ends and Fidel Castro comes to power, creating the first communist nation in the West. Now we're done with the 1950s. We're going to 1960s, and then we're gonna end in like by 1980s. So we're almost there. Now the 1960s, like we all know, interesting stuff happened in that decade. United States President John F. Kennedy is assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald. U.S. civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. gives his famous speech, "I Have a Dream." The United States begins to use zip codes. Not really sure why that was included into anything. 1964, the United States President Lyndon B. Johnson signs the Civil Rights Act of 1964 into law. So, 1965, the Voting Rights Act is signed into law by the President Lyndon Johnson. So, what is that? The Voting Rights Act in 1965 is a landmark piece of federal legislation in the United States that prohibits racial discrimination in voting. It was signed into law by Lyndon. Okay. And in that same year, Martin Luther King Jr. leads a peaceful civil rights march from Selma to Montgomery in Alabama. 1966, Indira Gandhi becomes Prime Minister of India. 1967, the 25th Amendment in the United States Constitution is ratified. So what is the 25th Amendment? Let's have a look. 25th Amendment. Section 4. Whenever the Vice President and a majority of the principal of... Sorry, I'm really tired, guys. I'm really trying to keep it together, but I'm tired. Okay. Whenever the Vice President and a majority of either the principal officers of the Executive Department or of such other body as Congress may by law transmit to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Hold on, I feel like it's longer than that. Duties of his office, and until he transmits to them a written declaration of the contrary, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the Vice President as acting President. 1968, civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. is assassinated in April by James Earl Ray. And that same year, the Civil Rights Act of 1968 is signed into law by President Johnson. And then in that same year, Richard Nixon wins the United States presidential election. In 1969, the United Kingdom abolishes the death penalty. Now, I'm going to go on to the 1970s, and then this is the last chapter. But I'm also going to read what happened in 1980, which is the last year of Aquarius, the Age of Aquarius. 1970, the United States invades Cambodia. And I've actually seen a trend of this. Like, the United States seems to, just love invading other countries. For what reason? I don't know. It's probably like made up or something. So 1971, the voting age changed from 21 to 18. And 1973, the United States Supreme Court declares that abortion is constitutional. Abortion is a constitutional right in the landmark decision on the Roe versus Wade case. 1974, the U.S. President Richard Nixon resigns from office after being implicated in the Watergate scandal. In that same year, the world's population is estimated 4 billion. Gerald Ford becomes the United States president. 1975, the Vietnam War ends. And Bill Gates and Paul Allen create Microsoft. Okay, and then in the year 1980, the most interesting thing that I saw was the U.S. boycotts the 1980s Olympics in Moscow, and Ronald Reagan is elected as the President of the United States, and John Lennon is shot and dies. So what are the main themes of Age of Aquarius? So what I took out of Age of Aquarius was war, money, kind of like a building up of government, and maybe like history has always been this way, but it's really interesting that in the Age of Aquarius, we also had Nazism on the rise. And we also had the United States, the United Nations form after that. And if you know anything about, like, if you know the conspiracy theory side of the United Nations, it's not a fucking, like, the world, like, these organizations that just so happen to, like, be formed in the last 100 plus years, they seem to, like, have been formed under the guise of helping, but they're really just they're not, you know, they're designed for human control. And after this video, after this first part, after all of this, like, this very, very brief history lesson from 18,000 to 1980, I'm going to go on to a timeline of what's happened from 1980 to now. And it just, one thing I can definitely take from everything that I just went through is my psychic predictions seem to be right, you know? The energy of the water bearer is one which revolves around eccentricism, knowledge, building of ideas, and deception. Through the earthly aspect an underlying demeanor. There is an undeniable aspect to this energy that is connected to and tied with Capricorn. Their expressions, the expressions of Aquarius, are vastly different, but their goals are the same. So Aquarius and Capricorn, their expressions are vastly different because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus, whereas Capricorn is just ruled by Saturn. They want dominion, success, earthly advancement, and their goal is tied to / laced with karmic and karmic debt. So, I don't know. At the end of the day, we're always going to inherit karmic debt, but the reason why I feel like this feels different, and a lot of people, millions of people all around the world, maybe even billions of people all around the world, are feeling this exact same way. They're describing this moment in history as the Great Awakening, and they're describing it as knowledge is power. They're describing it as fight the system, rage against the machine kind of thing. But the problem is that in the Age of Aquarius, there were a lot of high, extreme things that happened. Like depressions, 2 world wars, Nazism was on the rise, submarines were being built, weapons of destruction were being built, and more government control was being implemented, because they just kept on adding amendments to the U.S. Constitution. So I think that it's very timely that since 1980, we have been in the Age of Pisces. And have you noticed that the dominant energy has been feminine? It has been feminine. And I explained this in my previous video, about why feminine energy can actually be dark. Like, yes, the moon is beautiful, the stars are beautiful when it's night out. The feminine energy is the night. It's the yin. It's the moon. It's the expressions of the night. But the night also, even when we were like hunter-gatherers, when it was dark, we couldn't see like predators because we didn't have the tools that we do now. Everything is hidden in plain sight. I hear this all the time from these freedom fighters. And if you just like kind of mold that kind of vision around from the sun, from the moon and stuff, and how, the moon looks so alluring, and then you contrast it to everything that's happening in society right now. We're in a cultural war right now. And I don't like to entertain these kind of things. I don't like to label people the left versus the right, but that's the truth of the matter, That's the truth. We are in a cultural war between left versus right, Democrat versus Republican, conservative ideas versus progressive ideas. And the worst thing is that the people who are in more of a masculine state of mind are disillusioned. They are operating off of emotion. They're operating off of femininity. They're operating without enough masculine energy, which is logic, which is factual, which is informative. And have you noticed how a lot of the people who exude the feminine energy just gaslight the shit out of you? Like, let's just objectively take this whole vaccine slash unvaxxed, vaccinated slash unvaccinated fight that we're having. It's maybe the elephant in the room, and maybe it's not anywhere outside of the internet with all these keyboard warriors coming at us. But have you noticed how dark these people that are saying that the unvaccinated, like, they're like legitimately saying, oh, I hope you get what's coming to you. Just today, I read a comment of someone saying that to me. Just because I may or may not be vaccinated. Like, I'm not fucking vaccinated. I'm not taking that fucking COVID jab. Okay, it's a experimental drug, and I'm not taking it. And then saying these ridiculous things like, how could you be so selfish? Like, it doesn't even make any fucking sense. It doesn't make any sense. But that is the feminine energy. The feminine energy wants to cater to your emotions. It wants to manipulate you into feeling some type of way. They say they're like within the past 10 years of my life, I've been hearing all these feminazis saying, oh, there's not enough femininity in the world. Celebrate femininity. But the truth of the matter is that we've been under femininity since 1980. We've been under femininity since 1980. And that is why the world is at a weakened state. At an extremely weakened state. Is because we've been operating under one of the most feminine energies there is. Pisces. Age of Pisces. Pisces is like a head trip. It is like an Alice in Wonderland kind of reality. Up is down. Like you'd be celebrating a very merry unbirthday kind of deal. And you know why that is? It's because Pisces is the realm of dreams. It's the realm of dreams. It just disillusions us. It disillusions us. And it makes us want to like be in a state where we're just unrealistic. We're unrealistic because it's ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. But it's false optimism. Jupiter is optimistic, and it has associations with Sagittarius. So by default, Pisces also has some association with Sagittarius energy as well. But the good side about Age of Pisces is that there is a lot of knowledge within Pisces. Knowledge is power within Pisces because Pisces is the last sign. So Pisces takes us through all of the other signs, from Aries all the way to Pisces itself. And I hate to say it, but like Pisces, Age of Pisces is not going to end until the year 2160. So we've got a while to go before things start to stabilize again. And I'm not saying we're going to be alive until then. I know that sounds like that's what I was getting at, but that's not okay, so yeah. What is Pisces? Let's explore that in the next video. So please subscribe to the channel if you are excited about me going through the Age of Pisces and the historical events that have happened within the Age of Pisces, because it did start in 1980. So in the Age of Aquarius, I also forgot, in the 60s or 70s or something, obviously the hippie movement started. So the Age of Pisces is going to be something that we explore, and obviously we're living in it, so I can't predict the future. But it started in 1980, and it goes way into the future, 2160. So I have a lot to say about Pisces energy. I have a lot to say, especially as a Pisces rising. But there's so much that I can think of when it comes to Pisces energy, and so much of it makes sense now. So I'm really excited for that video, and I hope that you enjoyed this one, and I hope that you, wherever you are, you're having a great time. And if you're not having a great time, I hope that you know that this is one of the best blessings that we could have. And I'll explain why in the next video. Because Pisces energy, it's got a lot of downfalls, but it's got a lot of amazing things that if you understand how to operate within Pisces energy and work with the energy of the cosmos, then you're going to be okay. And there are hard times ahead, obviously. It's it's feminine energy. So feminine energy can go very dark, especially psychologically, especially spiritually. So I'm not saying that it's going to be beautiful all around. Y'all already know. Within the last 2 years alone, it's fucked up. But okay, now I need to stop rambling. So subscribe, like this video, leave me a comment letting me know what you guys thought about everything that I said, and have a lovely day or night. Bye guys.